Do you ever think about the Old Testament story about Samuel, who became one of the greatest prophets in Israel? 1 Samuel chapter 3, he's learning to hear God's voice. And the first 3 times that God spoke to him at night, he thought, get this, he thought that God's voice sounded like his master Eli. Why in the name of all things blessed would God's voice sound like Eli the priest? You ever stop to think about that? Do you ever stop to think about the thoughts you're thinking? I did, and I was like, that's just the weirdest thing, isn't it? I mean, I know he lived with Eli, worked with Eli every day, heard Eli's voice probably day in, day out, right? Do this, Samuel, do that, Samuel, take care of this. But in the middle of the night, he's hearing a voice. And it sounds like Eli. Then there's this recognition like, wait a minute, I'm not calling you. And so he goes back and says, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. Now he had to distinguish between what was actually Eli's voice and the voices in his head that were pretty normal to him. But God is now using that platform. The same platform that he hears voices all day long is now the same platform that God is using to speak to him. And he became one of the greatest prophets in all the land that way. I submit to you this idea: God speaks to us mostly in our minds, using our thoughts, our brainwaves, and even our imaginations as a platform to know his voice. God moves in your brainwaves, and he uses the voices in your head, and then he highlights, and then he enhances, and then he magnifies, and he likes to amplify certain thoughts in your brain, and that's one of the main ways that he likes to speak to his people. Let me say again, in case you turn this into heresy, not every thought in your brain is God. You're allowed to think your own thoughts if you want to. You're allowed to have your own imaginations, and not every dream is from God either, all right? Just saying. But that is still the main platform that he interacts with his kids, day in and day out.